Well, good morning and welcome to Bedhead Chat with Chad. It is another Monday. Oh, Monday. You know, it's not fair because Fridays don't feel like Fridays, but boy, do Mondays feel like Mondays. That's all I can say. Mondays feel like Mondays. So, let me get my high tech stuff going here. Boom! There we go. Bedhead Chat with Chad. It's still late to the party. So if you were with me last Thursday, we were going to do late to the party, but because of the Nome internet conspiracy, we got cut off after the very first word, which was industrial fan. But before we get into still late to the party, I got to throw a throw out here. Let me pop up this picture. Boom! I feel like Kramer in Mad Money, just boom, making all these sound effects and pictures. But here we go. It is my son Jeremy's birthday today. So I got to do a shout out to him. Happy birthday, Jeremy. It is his 22nd birthday. And boy, could I tell you stories about Jeremy. Let me tell you one. See, as a pastor, we tell a lot of stories. And we made a deal with him. Ooh, see how I messed that one up. So we tell a lot of stories. And I made Kylie and Jeremy deals when I was young, where they were young. Every time I talked about them, I give them $1. And let me tell you what, if they would have invested their dollars into the stock market, they'd be rich right now because I told a lot of stories about them. But I'll just tell you one story. So when Jeremy was young, when we lived in Florida, they loved going to the water parks. We would go to the water parks all the time. And at Disney's Typhoon Lagoon, they had this thing called swimming with the sharks. And what you do is you would get in the water, and the water was like 60 degrees. It was the same as the ocean temperature. So you'd get in the water, and they'd have you acclimate to it. Now, in the water, they had not just sharks, but they had stingray and all these other fish, grouper, all these things. And so you'd have you get in where the water is about this deep, and you had to stand there, sit in there, and get used to the temperature of the water before you actually would be in your snorkel and mask, and you just swim across, and you look, and they were bottom feeder sharks, so you really didn't have to worry about shark. Well, the very first time Jeremy gets in, so he gets in, and now this Jeremy, here's the thing about Jeremy. Jeremy was very small for his age, where Kylie was very tall for her age. Jeremy was in the very low percentile for his height when he was born, and Kylie was in the highest percentile for his height. So Kylie could ride the roller coasters when she was 8, and Jeremy couldn't ride the roller coasters until he was really old. We actually got him. We got him the what do they call it? The shoes with the little wheels and wheelies. We got him wheelies to give him extra height so he could ride the rides earlier. But here he is. He gets into the water, and it's his very first time. And we got them both braved up to swim with sharks. I mean, let's be real. These are preteen kids getting in water to swim with sharks. And he gets in the water, and this stingray's floating around. Well, this little stingray goes right between his legs, and he jumped out of the water like no one's business. Woo! I mean, he just jumped out of the water like, I am not going back in. Which, how can you blame him, man? A stingray swam between this little kid's legs. Well, needless to say, he did not swim that time. But Jeremy, the next time, he went swimming with sharks. So, yeah, that's to my boy. Happy birthday, Jeremy. He is 22 today. If you know my son, send him birthday messages. If you got his Facebook, which he doesn't use anymore, don't bother. But if you know his phone number, text him, call him, do whatever. But happy birthday, Jeremy. So, today's theme, once again, is still late to the party. And we started last week with words from people who are actually essential workers who don't get to watch this while you guys are watching it because they are actually at work. Yeah, instead of being like here doing nothing like I am, just sitting here without, I'm still, if you saw my bottom half, my bottom half is still in pajamas. I know I look so well kept here today. Oh, and by the way, so today's bedhead, how's that look? Sponsored by Ghirardelli Chocolate. Now, normally I don't eat blood orange chocolate, but because of the Amazon essentials, only selling the essential stuff, I can't have my 92% intense dark chocolate. So if there's anyone in the lower 48 that is feeling really generous, and would like to send me 92% intense dark chocolate, feel free. P.O. Box 657, Nome, Alaska, 99762. That's the end of today's commercial. So, yeah, so it's essential workers. We're going towards essential workers because they're out working while we're having fun. well, I don't know about fun, but uh, I saw that, Todd. Why don't you drink from the other side of the cup? You should have asked me that when you were on live, Todd. Taylor's live at work right now. Well, you're not working if you're watching what I'm doing. Booyah. So this is for the people that watch it afterwards and send me words after they watch it, like in the evenings or not live. So last time we started this, we got one word, and we got industrial fan. But just because I like a challenge, I'm going to stick and start over with the whole word set. So we had industrial fan, we had soap opera, and we had mud. So starting with industrial fan. I already told one story about industrial fans, and it had to do with me and my bad gas. You have to go back to Thursday and see that story if you want to see it. But sticking with the person who gave that word, Danette, I remember Cornerstone, because we talked a lot about these music festivals. I could do a whole month on just stuff that happened at music festivals. Todd, you're late to the party. Yes, you are. So, welcome Bailey and Michael and Taylor and Todd and Greg and Andreas and Amy and Cleve, and welcome all you guys. So, we were at a music festival, and remember I told you, if you're a regular follower, kudos to the regulars, Cornerstone is either hot and sticky or wet and miserable regardless. But this is one of those hot and sticky years. And this is back before you could go to Sam's Club and just buy those industrial fans for $99. Silent but deadly, yes. So, Taylor, you're on break. Well, way to spend your break. So, big industrial fan. And this is one of those days where it's just so hot. I mean, you would go into the Porta-John. I'm not even kidding. I'm not exaggerating. You go to the Porta-John, you go in there for like 30 seconds to walk out and feel like it was air conditioning, just for relief. It was so hot. Well, this guy named Dave, there's another Dave. I need a bell for every time I say Dave. Ding! There's another Dave. So the guy named Dave, he's got his shirt off, and he's just sitting there like this in front of this industrial fan. And we had fun because we took quarters. We were just like throwing quarters at Dave, trying to see if they'd stick to his belly. Like we'd throw quarters and we were playing belly darts with quarters and coins. Boo! And they'd stick from just all the sweat, and not just sweat, but the gunk. Because Cornerstone had showers, but these showers were made out of plywood stalls inside of a semi. It was disgusting. Let's just say you didn't shower unless you had to. So here is this body fucking sweat, and we were just playing quarter darts while Dave was sitting in front of this industrial fan. And by the time it was done, he had these just coins. So he was like his own little duck pond where he was collecting coins. So he probably had enough money to go buy a coffee by the end of the day. But yeah, industrial fan, that's one of many memories I have with the word industrial fan. Wow. So the next word, and by the way, hey, ready? Here we go. Here comes the next. Boom. Post your topic words now, because I need words from you guys. I'll be watching. The next word comes from a lady named Sarah, and she said the word soap opera. Now, I don't watch soap operas. I'm just not the soap opera kind of guy. I've seen them back when we used to skip school, and the only thing on in the afternoon was soap operas. I mean, I've kind of watched them. But I had this person, when I first started doing weddings, I've done some really interesting weddings in my life. I've done some fun ones. And one of my, probably the most fun one I've ever done is a soap opera wedding. It was on the beach of Lake Michigan. I've done one where it was video game style, yeah, well, let's go back to the soap opera one. The soap opera. So here's the thing. The person loved soap operas. And she asked me to incorporate soap operas into her wedding. So we were in St. Joe, and I wrote the whole thing, including prayers, everything, the sermon part of it, the everything. And I had to look up soap operas. I mean, I found as many soap operas. Do you know how many soap operas are out there? Google names of soap operas, and it's amazing how many soap operas exist. And you don't even have to go outside of the U.S. soap operas. But I started doing it. It was really easy at first because, there's a lighthouse out there. I said, just like God is our guiding light. That was an easy one. But then I even got the words General Hospital in there. I mean, I got it all in there. And she is trying to get married. And only her. She's the only one that knows. No one else is catching this. But I got every single soap opera built into the prayers, into the wedding, into all parts of it, into her vows parts of it, not her actual vows, but like into the incorporated into every part of it. You name it. You name a soap opera, it was in there. And it wasn't tacky. It was built in. I mean, every prayer had the soap opera built into it. And even the General Hospital and all the Days of Our Lives, that was easy. But nobody caught it in Days of Our Lives. Yep. You name it, I had the soap opera built into it. So, yeah, I have some experience with soap operas. If you want to do a wedding, a theme wedding, my favorite line from a vow is, I'll take an arrow to the knee for you. Yeah, yeah, that was one of my favorite. And then they had swords as the bride and groom left. They had wooden swords, and the bride and the groom walked through the wooden swords. Yeah, that was a great wedding. But hey, start posting your topic words. And silent but deadly is not a word, Todd. Mud from Carrie. Oh my gosh, mud. There's so many ways to go with mud. I mean, I know it sounds strange that I have 100 different mud stories. I mean, all the way from being a child to being an adult. I mean, I've got mud stories up until I moved to Nome, only because I haven't been stuck in the mud here. But my earliest mud memory is salsa. Okay. My earliest mud memory is we used to always try to, high winds, ice cream. I'm seeing these words. We used to make mud sodas in the bottles to try to get my neighbor Randy to drink, thinking they were a Coke. But mud, probably my favorite memories, and these are all probably youth related memories, youth group style memories. We went to, well, hey, here we go. I'll stick with the festival theme. A live festival in Ohio. We were always trendsetters. We always started stuff, and people would start doing what we do. I mean, it's just the way we are. And so it started to pour down rain at this festival, and everyone's hiding, getting inside of their tents or in their trailers and everything. And we're like, we didn't come here to hide in our trailers or hide in our tents. Granted, we were in tents, so there wasn't really a place to hide. So this is Ohio, and this is like clay. This is an area that's a lot of clay/mud. So we started sliding down the hill, and we made like this mud slide. And before you know it, we are stinking covered in clay and mud. Well, as we do it, other people joined us. So our group of 10 probably doubled, because there's still people that were just scared to do it. And before you knew it, here we are just completely covered in this clay and this mud. Well, they have a lake, and we try to go jump in this lake, and security comes in. No, you can't get in the lake. Like, God forbid we get mud inside their lake. But they stopped us from getting in the lake. And then they stopped us from getting into the showers. And then they took us, and they only allowed us to hose down with ice cold water, to the point where one of our people, actually, we had to call an ambulance because she got hypothermia. Because, I mean, if you've ever been covered with clay type mud, it doesn't just wipe off. You don't just go, oh, there's the mud, it's gone. I mean, you got to scrub. You're scrubbing and scrubbing. And here we are, just coated. We got pictures. My favorite picture ever is, there's our whole group of us, and we were a mixed group of people that came in. There was Caucasian, African American, Spanish, all sorts. But with this picture, you don't know who's who. We all looked the same. We were that covered in mud, even to the point where we're like drawing pictures on our chests, just covered in mud. And because they didn't want us to get mud in the lake, I still don't understand that one. One of our people ended up going to the hospital for hypothermia from having to wash off in a hose. And they held the hose. They didn't even let us use the hose ourselves. Well, the next year, we went to the Live Festival, and everybody started playing in the mud. We're like, oh, no hypothermia for us this year. And, of course, so many people did it the next year that they let people jump in the lake. So, but, we had a spot at Leisure Valley Campground in Decatur, Michigan. And every time, whether it be our youth or just all the teenagers that would hang out at the parks, like on every major holiday, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, we would do what was called the muck tours. Now, a lot of you, I'm looking at, you've done the muck tours, and it was adults did it too. It just, the muck tours were amazing because back at Leisure Valley, there's about 26 to 30 springs. We've counted, and they just keep popping up. This natural springs. Well, the natural springs would go and they'd all flow together, but they'd turn into this pond that was all mucky. And I would take everyone back on a tour. We'd look at the springs, and we'd walk the springs, and then the springs would turn into muck. And by the time it was done, we would walk through, and I'd take this journey, and the brave would keep going. Like one spot, you climb underneath the bridge. Uh, we climb underneath the bridge, and by the time you're done, you are covered in this complete muck. And then when you come back, I had a spot right next to one of the fresh natural springs. Now, these natural springs were ice cold, where we had kind of worked up an area and made a mud pit. So by the time you were done, you were so covered with muck. At first, you're scared to even get wet. By the time you're done, we had a mud pit, and people were just straight up wrestling in this fresh, clean. I wouldn't necessarily call it clean, but I mean, mud is mud, but just mud. So every time we went out, all the seasonal campers there were like, oh, here we go. Chad's taking them to the mud pit. And we'd come back, and it was Chad's muck tour. We'd walk back, and they would always come through covered in mud, do a tour of the campground, and then go, hey, jump in the lake. Yeah, jump in the lake. So that was our mud tour. High winds. Let me see some of the words you put out here. I remember I grabbed a tree after John. The whole tree fell, and I landed on my back. You guys got some stories of your own here. Ice cream, salsa, high winds. You guys got some snakes. Oh my gosh, snakes. Cody Graham, you went on the muck tours. Okay, so what was the first word that was thrown out? Because I got to play fair here. Salsa. Salsa. So you want a story based on the word salsa. All right, I can do that. So we used to always when we lived everywhere but here, every place we've ever lived but here, because Nome is just different. It's nothing against Nome. Nome is just different. It's not like the lower 48. I mean, where we live here, I mean, you can't drive here. The only way you can come visit me is hop on an airplane and fly 535 miles from Anchorage, Alaska, or hop on a boat and take 3 or 4 or 5 days on a cruise line to get here. So it's not like you can just come visit. But we always had people always eating dinner at our house. And Dana has this salsa that she makes. It's a fresh corn. It's just really, really good. Well, we have this tendency as a group to screw with each other. I don't know why we do it, but we do. And this is, I mean, you pick an age, you pick a timeline in the group from when I started in the late 90s to 2018 or 29, whenever we left the Wajak. If you pick any era, I can tell a story from there of us screwing with each other when it comes to all that kind of thing, from food to whatever. Oh my gosh, okay, so Andreas, I apologize if whoever said this, because you just got me on a side thing. See how this works? So we're at IHOP, and this is one of our later groups. We're at IHOP, and this is where salsa took me. Sorry, guys. And we always, every group we've ever had since the early 2000s, we've taken to IHOP. Even to the point where we've taken our old group and our new group, brought them together, and had them meet each other, because everyone has a doppelganger. Every group has the same people that are different. So we went to IHOP, and we've got all of our people there together. And next thing you know, we've got the manager at our table saying, sir, you need your group to leave. And they're like, excuse me? And first time ever in our life, just for the record, first time ever in our life that we've been kicked out of IHOP. And let me tell you, we've done a lot of things at IHOP. I mean, I remember one time when we were there doing an all-night thing, one of our guys, John, there's our John again, which, by the way, John might be live with us on Wednesday this week. The John. He went over, there used to be the wings place next door, the Hooters, and he would go over there and he'd take his shirt off. John was a big boy and well endowed, and he would go over and knock on the window, and he would do the truffle shuffle. One day he walked over there and he applied for See how I just everything leads to another story. He went over there and he applied for a job at Hooters, and they said, "Well, we don't need anyone in the kitchen right now." He goes, "No, I want to apply for a server position," and they just didn't know what to do. It was the funniest thing ever. But when John every Saturday would go over there and do the truffle shuffle to the point where the general manager every Saturday night when we were there, she would come over and watch. People from the whole half of the building were just you would watch as John went over, knocked on the window, and did the truffle shuffle. So we've done a lot of things and never been kicked out of IHOP before. Until we brought a guy named Cody and a guy named Robert. I won't tell you which Cody and which Robert, but we got kicked out of IHOP. These guys, after 15 years of going to IHOP, decided that their salsa wasn't good enough. They didn't like their food, I guess. Went into the bathroom and trashed the bathroom. Of course, we didn't do it. It wasn't us. Now, here's the reality. It's not the first time our group has probably trashed the bathroom, but it's the first time, I'm looking you in the eyes if you're watching right now, it's the first time that they ever got caught. Uh-huh. I'm talking to you. Yeah. So, salsa, IHOP, getting caught. Don't get caught. But yeah, so salsa, you missed that. I bet you missed that. Insanity sauce, Cleve, we've already talked about insanity sauce. Let me look at some other words. Ice cream. Okay, so there's this time we did this game with Instagram. And it was funny because I did Instagram and I thought that all my youth were like hip and like above board and had all, no one had Instagram. I'm like, this isn't going to work. So I had to have everybody download Instagram and get Instagram. See, that's how much I knew about what people were into. But this was 5 years ago. And we did this Instagram search where you had to go and take pictures. I sent you pictures of little things and they had to figure out what it is and they had to go take a group shot in front of everything. And it was a lot of fun, but I would send little instant messenger pictures. On my Instagram, I would send pictures of where I was, and if they could find me, then it was bonus points if they got to me at a certain point in time. So one of the things I did is I went to McDonald's and I ordered an ice cream cone, and I was like, if you show up in 10 minutes, you get free ice cream. Of course, nobody showed up in 10 minutes, so I got all the ice cream. Now, I know that's not the story you're looking for, but I got a better story. So we used to go and have ice cream eating contests. Now, by the way, I never won. Never won. Anybody want to guess of all the stories I've told who won the ice cream eating contest? John. This guy, I don't think he had any receptors in his mouth. I don't think he could feel pain. This guy could take an ice cream cone, like we would go, the first way it worked is you had to go, we'd go to like Ryan's or one of those places where you got to do your own ice cream. And I know some of you guys are feeling this with me, where you could do your own ice cream. And the idea was to see how big you could make your ice cream cone. And I'm telling you, we would come out with these monster ice cream cones with a, where you're pouring doing your own soft serve. We'd come out with these ice cream cones this big. And this John guy, he could just like take it and he would go like this. He'd have his ice cream cone like this, and he'd go. And kiss that ice cream cone goodbye. Yeah. No, not me. Rookies? Oh, I don't think so. Cleve, you can't do that. Hey, Malaya. Good to see you. Rita, welcome on. Jenny. So let's see what other words we have on there. Somebody throw me a word. Give me a good one so I can tell a really good story. We've got 7 minutes left. I need a really good story I can tell you. Otherwise, let me tell you another story about Jeremy because it's Jeremy's birthday today. So Jeremy, and I'm going to tell you a story. Well, no, that's an embarrassing story. Then he'll get mad at me. I'll more than $1. I can't tell that story. So that's what happens when you have no gag reflex. Yes, John, that's the thing. When I told you the pancake story, remember John and Craig, the brothers, they have no gag reflex. So they could just eat ice, they could do whatever they wanted, and they never had a problem with that. So Jeremy Jeremy is a guy who he's a unique kid in the fact that he loves to do a lot of things, but he doesn't have to do it twice. I remember taking him to Disney, and he didn't want to go because he'd already done it all. But if he hadn't done it all, it didn't matter. He'd want to do it. But Jeremy, I remember taking him to the Halloween Horror Nights. He was my guy when he was really young. Now, some people say it was too young to take him to a haunted house, but I took him to Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, Florida, at Universal Studios. Jeremy was my guy. We would go every year because it was something new, it was something different, something he had never done before. We would go to Universal Halloween Horror Nights, and they were, as a kid, somebody told Kylie and Jeremy the story of Bloody Mary, and the theme that year, of course, was, guess what? Bloody Mary. Well, the very first haunted house Jeremy ever went to was the one I thought was going to be the most simple one. Hey, Sarah, I told the story about the soap opera wedding. You have to listen to it later. So the very first one, I'm like, okay, we're gonna go really light. We're gonna pick the most simple one I can think of, and it was the fairy tale themed haunted house. Well, we went into this fairy tale. It was called Fairy Tales Gone Wrong. And this was the worst haunted house they had of the place. This is the one where they spent the most time in costuming and makeup, where the fairy tales looked real, but they were deformed. They were messed up. They were, in the very first haunted house Jeremy ever went to was something that Universal Studios did. It was studio quality, movie quality, that looked the fairy tales gone wrong. So this is when he was probably 10 years old, and that was his first experience. Well, guess what? It scared the crap out of him, but it didn't stop him. So then here we are. The next year, and this is what I'm leading up to. The next year, we go to Halloween Horror Nights again, and this is when it's the Bloody Mary. And they also had a Chucky house. And we're like, oh, that's fun. Let's go do Chucky. And we love Chucky. We had watched Chucky, and we go into the Chucky house, and we're walking through. And at this point, Jeremy was, first I would hold them, and if you hold them, they lighten up. You know, if they see a kid, they're really good about not doing much scare. But at this point, Jeremy was not being held by me. Jeremy was walking on his own, so they were giving all-out scares. Well, we walked through this Chucky house, and it's like, okay, this is really lame. We haven't seen a Chucky yet. We were like 2 minutes in and hadn't even seen a Chucky. Well, next thing we know, from here comes this Chucky, just jumps out and scares the heck out of us. Because right after I said, this is lame, we haven't seen a Chucky yet. Yeah, I hate Chucky too. So then we walk like a step farther, and on this side, here comes a Chucky. Gets us again, because I think we already had it, right? Chucky already got us. There can't be more than one Chucky in the same spot. And they're like, oh, you know, scared us, and like, oh, that was good. You know, after we jumped, we walk another step forward, and a third Chucky gets us. Here's the deal. They have, the way that Universal is set up, they call it the triple scare, because you never see it coming. So they have so many in each section, so the person behind you doesn't know that there's a different Chucky coming. When I got cocky and I said I haven't seen a Chucky yet, they used all three Chuckies on Jeremy and I. And needless to say, they got us. But we get to this Bloody Mary house. And, you know, they got mirrors everywhere. Everywhere. So we're walking through the Bloody Mary house. And we get through, and it's like, okay, this is nothing. This is nothing. We walk through, and there's mirrors, and we just see, and it was actually really lame. But the thing is, we walk out of the Bloody Mary house, and we're done. We're like, okay, that was no big deal. But then we walk out, and then there's this section, and this is my favorite part of all of Halloween Horror Nights, and Jeremy and I still talk about it to this day. We walk out, and there's this theme area, and it's the Wiz. And here's this guy on stilts. You know he's on stilts, but he's just a tall guy. And we look up at him, and he's like talking to us and trying to scare us. And this little man, this midget, comes out from underneath his legs, shorter than Jeremy. Now, Jeremy is short, okay? Jeremy's still very short. And he looks at us, and all he did was this, and it's the scariest thing that ever happened to us at Halloween Horror Nights. He goes, "Hey, little man." And he was below us, and we're looking up, and scared. I mean, literally, I almost crapped my pants. From a guy, all he said was, "Hey, little man." And Jeremy and I mean, and I don't scare easy. And so we went through all these houses, all these different things. I got Chucky getting me from 3 different directions, and a little guy coming between the legs of a guy on stilts. It's the scariest thing that Jeremy and I ever experienced at Halloween Horror Nights. So, yeah, that's a story that Jeremy and I will never live down. Happy birthday, Jeremy. Let's see, how much time do I have left? I have 1 minute left. So listen, to all my essentials out there, to all my essentials, hey, if you're watching this later, we love you. We thank you. I'm glad my son is an essential because that means Dowagiac still has Little Caesars Pizza. I sure wish I had pizza up here in Nome. I am craving for pizza. If anybody wants to ship me some pizza, like, freeze dry it and send it to me up here in Nome, I would love it. And don't forget, sponsored today by Ghirardelli Chocolate. I'm preferred 92% intense dark chocolate. Feel free to ship me some because Amazon will not ship it to me. I don't like blood orange. This is Dana's. So, peace. I love you guys. Don't forget, no showers, no shaving. Heck, I wore this clothes yesterday. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you get up in the morning, you go to bed at night, and you enjoy your day. Quarantine can take you down, or quarantine can make you better. I'm choosing to let it make me better. Have a great day. We will see you guys tomorrow at 7 a.m. Happy birthday, J-Dog.